everyone, welcome back. So this is the second part of block 4 in MMPC 7 business communication, and in this video we'll be talking about technology and communication. This is I would say a little more relatively easy topic out of all, because almost all of us are beneficiaries of technology and communication right now. So the topics discussed in this particular unit would, I believe, would be much more easier to grasp. So let's get started. We'll start with a quote from Tom O'Reilly, who said that what new technology does is to create new opportunities to do a job that customers want done. And this is a very true concept. This is very true because the reason why technology and communication, different types of communication, everything was invented was to communicate with people. Or like if you think about it, even the invention of wheel or the fire, radio waves, microwaves, all the technology that is there and what is being developed is either to make communicating, talking, collaborating with other people, or trying to understand the world that is around us, trying to communicate with the world, right? We have pet translators now, or communicate with aliens, try to catch them, try to send them messages, right? Or try to receive messages from them. We are always looking out for it. So all the things that we do is actually to create new opportunities to do and to collaborate, right? And to do a job that customers want done. So at the end of the day, it is your customers' needs that a business meets. And who are our customers? Our customers are other human beings, right? So on that regard, the first and foremost topic that we must touch upon is the difference between internet and intranet. So this is a small diagram. I got it from the internet, which shows the difference actually. So intranet, if you can see, is the organization. So whatever happens inside the organization, it's intra. Even if you would remember, we had intra and inter personal communication, and intrapersonal was within ourselves, inter was with other people. So the same thing, intranet is inside the organization. It creates connections inside the organization. Naturally, it is a private network, and therefore it is more secure, and it will only have limited traffic, because only the people of that organization would be using the services inside the intranet, right? And only they have the access. Suppose, say, you take any of the big fours, or even Tesla, or even Twitter for that matter, or Facebook. We have the app, we can use Twitter, we can use Facebook, but uh, or even we can use Google, but their internal softwares, their internal platforms for communication, they would be much more different, and those things we'll definitely not be having any access to. Only the employees of that particular organization will have access to such softwares, right? So that is the intranet. Then comes an extranet. So that is kind of like beyond or outside the organization. It could be with your customers or suppliers and all. So one example, if I were to say, is that if you are in an organization, if it is a decently big organization, you will have internal applications to log in your times, or time spent, the hours, or the leave, to apply any leaves, or to get communications internally. There would be platforms like that. But once you resign from the organization, you will not have access to those things, but you will have access to a small other, a very other part of the communication network, for the alumni, designed as only for the alumni of the organization. So as long as you are in the organization, you would not have access to the alumni portal. But that is the same for even our schools and colleges, right? Once you are out of that school, you belong to the, you can take a membership in their alumni association. As long as you are in it, you won't get access to it. So that you can think of as a extranet. But it is the internet that is more important to us after the intranet, right? So internet, it creates connections between computers all around the world. So internet is the all encompassing thing. So definitely when internet was a private system, internet is naturally a public system, and therefore it is not as secure. It is, we can say, less secure, and definitely the traffic is very high. So in case there is a short note question, most probably it will be one among maybe three or four sub questions to write short notes on. You might get an internet versus intranet question, and it is you can write it, right? You just need to just think about what the words mean, and you will naturally get the points. At least you will know how internet is. So just remember this diagram, okay? Internet encompasses everything, whereas intranet is just this, you can say, the smallest part of networking. Now, the next important topic here, and I think the heart of this unit, is the information and communication technology, ICT. And this concept you will find recurring in almost, I think, almost all the other subjects. There is at least one unit where this ICT is touched upon. And it is more or less the same concept with maybe a few additions or deletions depending upon the unit, just expanding a little bit on, like, for example, if you're talking about HRM or organizational behavior, there ICT would touch upon a little bit more into the HR part of it, or the managerial organizational part of it, but other than that, the basic concept is the same. So let's get to it. So what is information and communication technology? Well, it refers to all of the technologies and services that are involved in, say, computing, data protocol management, and telecommunication, and the internet. But why is it important? Well, information and communication technology is what has enabled us to set up e-commerce. That is, we can shop goods online. Now, right now, we have very quick and interactive access to product information and catalogs. We can even have virtual try-ons, right? Even for specs and lipsticks, we can have, or even jewelry, we can have virtual try-ons. So right now, all that is possible because of information and communication technology. Setting up of a new business has not been much easier than what it is right now, right? It could get more easier going forward, but as of now it's the easiest of all times. There has been a lot of manufacturing innovations because of ICT. There are customer feedback loops. We can look at customer reviews and all those things, right, before trying out a product. There is reduced network latency. There is advancement in healthcare because of ICT. We have a universal access to education right now. We have Coursera, we have Udemy, YouTube universities are coming up. One of the channels that go for, I mean, like, we are also one of the channels which aim at providing education, right? Earlier, before YouTube, or before this widespread adoption of YouTube, it was not that easy. I remember when I was in my school, at that time YouTube was almost it was not this developed. It was still in its early days. We were getting a lot of content, but not as much as what is there right now. So more than YouTube, what I we used to do was we used to go into websites like Vedantu and Topper and such things, and print. It was all written material. We used to take a printout of it and then learn, but that is also limited, very limited. It was also just in its early phases. But if you want more knowledge, then it was school or the school's library that we finally had to go and approach, right? So education was not as universally accessible, right, back then. And of course, there is an environmental impact. In some ways it is pro environment, whereas in some ways it is not so, right? So that is the importance of ICT. Then another important aspect of ICT is the ability for us to get into virtual meetings. Right now, earlier it was that if you needed a meeting means it was either everybody in the same room present physically, or the maximum which we could was a teleconferencing. Even then, that had limitations. But now we have virtual meetings where it is almost free, and much more number of people can participate in the virtual meetings, and we can be in virtual meetings just from directly from our home. We don't need to go and drive anywhere or meet physically to hold a meeting, right? So what are virtual meetings? Virtual meetings are when people in different areas interact simultaneously, utilizing the innovations to achieve a common objective. That is, we can interact with our colleagues at a distance, we can meet clients or customers. It saves a lot of cost and time. Otherwise, if our client was in, say, Japan, we would have had to go there or get the client to visit us to have a meeting. But right now, it is not required, right? It saves us a lot of money and time. So, what are the features of a virtual meeting platform? Well, there is an option to record the meetings. We have chat options. We can sync it with our calendar and then it will give us reminders. We can customize our meeting rooms. Then we can, right now, like even in Teams or Zoom and all, we can raise hands to, uh, you know, to, so it is kind of like an engagement feature. So these are all features of a virtual meeting platform. So suppose a question comes on ICT. This is a potential 20 mark question. So the things that you would need to write is what you understand by ICT, what are its importance. Then you can go on and tell about this virtual meeting, teleconferencing, um, then social media. All these things can be written to supplement your answer and make it worth those 20 marks. Okay, so um, on the concept of virtual meetings, now let us look at how we can make a virtual meeting productive. There is a challenge in a virtual meeting, so I think most of you might have at least had one class online by now, or that did some course online, um, where you will not have gone to a physical classroom, right? So from that perspective, let us, so that is also a kind of a virtual meeting. From that perspective, let us first think about virtual meetings, right? What are some of the obstacles? Well, for one thing, it is very easy for us to lose track and lose concentration, right? We'll be sitting in our homes, mostly in our beds, and listening to this through our phone. We might doze off, we might get distracted by something, or because there is actually no one to monitor us, we are not in a controlled environment. We have a lot of freedom, and that hampers the effectiveness of the class, right? So that is one of the cons which make people not opt for virtual classes or virtual meetings, and they say this is the reason why we think that they are not as productive. But ultimately, I would say it all comes down to self discipline. If you are disciplined yourself, without the need for somebody else to discipline you, then virtual meetings, I would say, is as productive as a physical meeting. And it is much more convenient also. But the thing is that I think that the people who uh, go by these lines of not being able to concentrate do lack a certain degree of perhaps self discipline to discipline yourself and sit and concentrate just like you would have in an actual meeting. Definitely you need the surroundings to be set up for that too. Like if you are in a very noisy environment, or if you don't have the proper, if you are using the bed instead of sitting on a chair, if you're not dressed properly, all those things do affect our degree of self discipline that we can achieve. That is there. I'm not outright disregarding any of those aspects, but it can be greatly improved through inculcating self discipline in our lives, is what I feel. It's just my personal opinion. um, it would be different, and depending upon the circumstances, everybody, each and every one of us are. It is not that in all of the virtual meetings that I've had to come up, I have had to attend, I was 100% productive. No, there were meetings where I have been distracted because of background noises or other responsibilities which otherwise would not have been there if I were to be in a other physical meeting. That has been there, but to almost a good extent I've been able to reduce those by self disciplining myself. It was not an easy path. So how to make a virtual meeting productive? Well, for first, define the meeting objective, decide who will drive the meeting, maintain virtual gathering decorum, select appropriate questions to be discussed, establish an audience connect, and keep participants on task. So if you look closely, uh, these tips to make a virtual meeting productive is the same as how to make a meeting productive. So, whether the meeting is virtual or physical, to make a meeting productive, it needs to have an objective. It needs to have a clear idea of who's going to drive the meeting. And all in the meeting should maintain decorum. And Appropriate questions have to be discussed. If there is no audience connect, even physical meetings will lose its focus and be unproductive. And again, keeping participants on task is a fancy way of saying make sure your audience concentrate on what is being discussed. In a physical meeting, it is much more easier to do that, much more easier to much more easier to discipline your audience, because there is a face to face connect, and also a feeling of what would others, because we are in the presence of a lot of other people, that social instinct also kicks in, right? If I'm not concentrating, or if I doze off and my colleagues will see, then I'll be mocked at. But that is not there in virtual meetings. We can turn off our cameras and sit. Nobody's gonna know if we doze off, right? And if at all we get caught, we'll be like, okay, we had some internet issues over here, so I couldn't talk back, or I couldn't hear what you were saying properly, or something of that sort, and we will get out of the situation, right? That is there. So how do we keep participants on task is what is the big question in virtual meetings. And it depends on the audience and their level of commitment or discipline or involvement in the meeting. So in virtual meetings, more than anything, as I said earlier, the individual participants should be driven by the objective. Only then you can make it 100%, or even say 90% productive. If the people involved in the meeting, if the majority of them are disinterested in the objective, or think that this meeting is going to be a time waste, it is very difficult to keep your participants on task, much more difficult than a physical meeting. Now, what are the advantages of a virtual meeting? For one thing, it is harmless to the ecosystem. How can it be harmless to the ecosystem? We don't need to commute, even through by taking a public transport. We don't need to use that much of an electricity or that much of a big setup or something like that. It is all there. It is happening from our homes. So it is not that, when you think about the effect on the ecosystem, it is much more reduced than if all of us were to conduct a physical meeting. It is low cost because we would have our laptops or phone anyways with us, and we are just putting it to one more use. That's it. So it is low cost. We can connect or associate with remote participants. So the same thing, people in India can collaborate with people in the US or Japan or wherever, which otherwise would not have been possible with this much of an ease. Now, before the widespread adoption of these virtual meetings, we used to have teleconferencing, right? So if it was a long distance connect, then most of the time what we would do is, yes, there was WebEx, but we, more than WebEx or Teams or Zoom, we used to just give them a call. We used to call the office, and we will also be sitting around one phone, and they will also be sitting around in the opposite, wherever the destination, there will be one phone. We'll put it in the speaker or whatever, and we join. So it was a teleconferencing that we used to do mostly than these virtual Zoom or Teams meetings, right? So again, apart from the fact that these teleconferencing meetings cannot be made, I mean, we cannot share a video, um, so that video aspect of the things, or even screen shares or anything like that, was not possible then. Apart from that, even teleconferencing will get your basic meeting objectives done. So it also saves time and money. It also increases the productivity much better than if teleconferencing were also absent. It helps in faster decision making, fosters collaboration, and develops a professional work culture. So apart from to be honest, like even in our work meetings, even in my work meetings, even though we connect through Zoom, it is very rarely that we share our screen or have to on our video. Most of the time, the Zoom connect or the Teams connect or the WebEx connects which we have mostly is another way of doing the teleconferencing that we earlier used to do just from through our phones, work phones. So that is teleconferencing. Now, teleconferencing etiquettes. This teleconferencing etiquette is, again, if you look properly or look closely at it, it is a general meeting etiquette, or even a video virtual meeting etiquette. Okay, that is, be on time, make sure to eliminate your background distractions, introduce yourself professionally after joining the call, wear proper attire. So You might have seen a lot of memes on this regard, like if there is a virtual meeting, or if yeah, or a teleconferencing means nobody is going to see you, so you can wear anything or not even wear anything, right? It's up to us, nobody's going to see us. But if it is Zoom, then maybe the part above it also, we'll be dressing properly, appropriately, professionally, and then whatever to the bottom, it doesn't matter, right? But I would say don't do that. Dress yourself up, wear the proper attire, because it gives us a sense of purpose. All these things, why do we have a formal dress, why do we dress in a certain way, or why do we what you can say, mm, decorate ourselves in a certain way, or why do we do that when we are amongst people? Why do we go to a wedding in one way and a funeral in another way? Why do we go to an office in one way but a party in another way, or a nightclub in another way? Is because these things, the way we dress, or the way we put our makeup, the accessories we carry, they all give us a sense of purpose, right? They all contribute to the objective that we are there for. We do not dress the same way that we go to a wedding to go for a job interview, right? Why do we do that? Well, the reason why is because it gives us a sense of purpose. You see a well dressed man with a coat and a tie going for a job interview, the first impression that you get of that person, with polished shoes and everything, the first impression you get of that person is that that's okay, that's a respectable man, he's there for a job, he must be a high executive, right? At the same time, if you go with somber clothes to a wedding, people will be like, okay, maybe that's a poor girl, right? So we have to dress the part to play the part, right? So do that even for our virtual meetings. Just because it is virtual, or just because it's going to be a teleconferencing, don't don't shy away from doing it, because if you wear the proper attire, then I would say at least 25% of it is done. You feel that way, internally you feel like, okay, you're going to do something that matters, or doing something for the work. So it automatically gives you that sense, and then other things follow suit, right? So wear proper attire, don't eat during conferences, don't override others points, be patient. So the thing with teleconferencing or virtual meetings is that if everybody ons their mics at the same time, it's going to be a bigger mess than if everybody shouts at the same time in a physical meeting, right? So don't override others point, be patient, wait for your turn, and then speak. Yeah. So yeah, the other important aspect of this is social media management. Social media is um, what you can say, it is at its peak strength right now, right? We have social media. Earlier there used to be Orkut. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Orkut. I started with Orkut. I think there were many more previous to Orkut, but the first step I took with into social media was through Orkut, and then there came Facebook. Now there is Instagram, WhatsApp, Twitter, Twitch, a lot of things, right? So social media has become very powerful. Earlier, if it was a platform to collaborate and to reconnect with friends or make new friends, right now social media is much more than that. It is another place or another way to influence people, to build your business, get a revenue, right? Connect with people, or spread awareness, a lot of things, right? So so again, social media is an important part of ICT. What is social media management? Let us just take a quick look at it. So, social media management includes the designing of these social media pages and the contents, then monitoring the flow of these online conversations and their impacts, offering community service, measuring and reporting on this social media performances. Like, for example, we have Netflix. Okay, let's take the Netflix page. Okay, so we have social media managers and digital marketers right now, who focus on creating such contents. Like the Netflix India page, they come up with very innovative ways of promoting their contents right now. So there are people who have learned digital marketing or social media management or content creation behind these posts or articles or even comments, right? Then we have so that is and then I think almost all the celebrities have their own PR team who manages their social media pages, the contents they post, right? And then so there are people who monitor the flow of these conversations, on their pages. Like we have Twitter accounts for these organizations where they communicate, and I'm sure you might have seen a lot of memes regarding that also in Facebook, right? um, so that is there. Then offering community service like the Isha Foundations or Sri Sri's efforts. We had the Kaveri calling and all those things, right? They offer community service, and the way they spread awareness about these community services or mm, garner support for such things is through social media right now. Earlier, we used to see posters being stuck on walls, right? But nowadays, not more than a poster on a wall. It is a social media shared post that reaches us faster or to a wider audience. Correct? Yeah. So and then naturally, if you have a we have a content awareness. Like if you open an Instagram business account or a Facebook account, you will have insights like who looks at your posts more, what is the which post had the most engagement or the reach of certain posts, and depending upon that you can choose what type of content to create and all those things, right? So all of these things come under social media management. So customer tastes, preferences, likes, dislikes, all these things can be easily measured. Who are your target audience? Who are the audience that look at your content most? And what age range do they belong? All these things can be measured and understood and monitored with the help of these social media insights and all these things, right? And depending upon that, you can modify your content. Okay, so what are the advantages of such social media platforms? The most important is the constant connectivity that we can achieve with our customers. We can effectively customize our customer relationship management. We can effectively manage multiple social media platforms. We can present reports to stakeholders much more easily because we have these reports which we can pull in from our social media handles itself, right? Then we can streamline strong collaborations as well, team collaborations as well. So how do we manage these social media profiles then? Well, for one thing, if you have a if you are opening a social media platform for a business content, make sure that you don't mix it with your personal pages. Okay, keep them separate so that you can analyze them separately. It goes the same way, right? If you are opening a business, then don't give your savings account as a business's account, right? You open a separate bank account for your business, right? Don't intermix it, we say. Correct? It's the same with social media profiles as well. Then, to the maximum, avoid publishing mishaps. Include recognizable profile pictures. Select a captivating cover photo. Use focused messaging tools. Decide the perfect timing and recurrence of post. Fill the about section with basic information. Add organization milestones. Include a call to action button. Right? So, all those things are tips to manage social media profiles. Now, what is so these three types of media: lean media, rich media, and social media. So this is a potential short note question. Okay, so and this is also a recurring topic in I've seen these, I don't recollect which all, but I've seen these topics coming up in other MMPC units as well. Okay, so that is the lean media, rich media, and social media. So what is lean media? Lean media is having very less visual information and therefore a very low interaction rate also. So it is suited for more routine and unambiguous messages like letters, reports, memos, emails, and all those things. Whereas rich media, richness, media here we are talking about is the visual information. Okay, so lean media will have very less visual information, whereas rich media will have very high richness, and it helps in advertising. For example, there is face-to-face discussions or video conferencing, all those things. And so naturally, rich media is more suited for messages which may have an unclear information or which could have multiple interpretations possible. So your advertisements, your movies, all those things, or your social media posts, most of your social media posts are rich media. So unless it is a written post, which is lean media, but even then you can interact with that post, right? You can comment on that post, you can give a thumbs up, you can show a whole range of emotions right now in Facebook, correct? So it is kind of like a rich media right now. Lean media would be your posts, letters which come to you through your postman, or your books. They are all lean media. Social media is nothing but the online platform, and it offers a personal connect with your audience. It is much swifter, widely accessible, and highly beneficial for marketing and easy communication among people. Now, what are the advantages of this rich media? For one, it is much more easier to keep attention or a long association with the content if it is a much more visual or a rich media. It like for example, the certain advertisements, they catch our eye rather than if we were to read it, right? Reading a play and seeing a play is different, right? If you're seeing it, you so that is the reason why some people like to watch the movies more than read the book, because it is much more easier for them to hold on their attention. So that is one of the advantages of richer the media, chances of holding back on the attention is much more easier. For example, I sometimes think, even in our videos, right, rather than me just going on and on a monologue and giving you a few presentations, I'm really thinking about maybe, amp up the game a little bit and perhaps show concepts much more visually, you know maybe a face-to-face interaction and all. I'm really thinking on it. I'm working on it. Let's see. Maybe soon enough. But I believe that it could help you guys grasp much more and get a much more personal connect than what we are going through right now, right? Let's see. Inshallah. Right. So that is one of the advantages of rich media. So as I told, the insights and stuff like that, it helps us track the capacity. There is an increased interaction rate. The advertisements can be measured, higher performance levels are possible. We can bring about an enhanced brand awareness and an enriched user experience. So those are the advantages of rich media. So that concludes the second unit in the block 4. Okay, so I believe it is, I guess, unit 13 or so in your MMPC 7. So if you liked the video, if you've reached so far, consider subscribing. We have a lot of other videos planned as well for all the other topics. If you have any topics that you want to be discussed on, let us know in the comments. If you have any doubts, post it in the comments. You can always interact through comments, or we have a Telegram channel. We can interact through that also. Okay, so thank you so much. All the best. Learn well.